if a players' union has to go to owners and say, we want tanking to stop,
what's wrong with, well,
that's a problem. Welcome back to Sports Talk with Dad. My name is Kyle, and as always, I cannot call this Sports Talk with Dad without the man sitting next to me, a man who was alive when the average life expectancy was 35 years old, my dad, Tim.
Speaking of the life expectancy, I know you're on a health kick, and I'm trying desperately hard to support you in this.
Yep.
I've given up jelly beans, and it's driving me crazy.
Proud of you. I'm very proud of you.
I've switched to Z-bars.
You switched to Z-bars, the kids' bars?
Yes.
You're eating the kids' food?
I'm buying them the kids' food as well.
For those of you that, well, I guess nobody really knows since we just started this, but my father is obsessed with jelly beans. Every Easter, there's pounds of them. And so with me getting healthy and golf season coming up, and when I beat you in golf, I want to make sure there's no excuses. I'm getting him healthy, at least trying to, and part of that was giving up sugar for the Easter season this year, and he is struggling without the jelly beans right now.
First of all, I only ever ate the green ones and the yellow ones.
Pounds of them.
But I only ate the green. The rest of the bag pretty much went to waste, which is a total waste.
The issue is I ate them.
Yeah. No, I'm just letting you know, and Z-Bar is not a sponsor, but if you want to just send pounds of the stuff here, it's getting me through it. I know there's sugar in it. Still not the healthiest.
Hold on. Just prove that he's eating these things. He brought one downstairs. How much sugar are in these things?
Not much. Please tell me not much.
There's 10 grams of total sugar and 9 grams of added sugar. So 18% of this bar is sugar.
Better off with the jelly beans.
That means there's 10 grams of sugar in this from the stuff they put into it, and then they decided we're just going to add 9 more grams of sugar per bar.
And here I thought I was being healthy. At least I was tricking myself. So
yeah, those aren't much better, but it's a step.
It is a step in the right direction.
A slow step in the right direction, and I am proud of you for at least trying to go without jelly beans.
Trying.
I don't think it's going to last, but
I'm going to make it through. I am stubborn, so
right.
I will make it through. So this is Sports Talk with Dad.
Yes, we said that.
Yeah, I know, but you're not my only child.
It's true.
It's your sister's birthday was yesterday.
Yep.
And your brother Ryan's birthday is today. So happy birthday, happy 20th birthday to Cassie, and happy 31st birthday to Ryan, considering I screwed that up earlier today. I said, hey, how does it feel that your last day in your 20s? And he replies back and goes, yeah, that was actually last year. So
his birthday has been screwed up with me forever. I thought Ryan and I were only 1 year apart, and then we're at some point the same age, because that's what Mom had told me at one point. And when Ryan turned 21, I'm like, hey, let's go and have a couple drinks. And he's like, I'm 20. And it just blew my world. So you are not alone in confusing his age at all.
I usually get it because you guys are 18 months to the day apart, practically. But happy birthday, Ryan.
Yes, happy birthday,
have a great
Ryan.
day today. And we will celebrate later on. So
yes, then he is, by the way, Ryan is your spitting image. You both are as Irish gets, which, by the way, makes lighting him for the show impossible.
It could be a show in itself because you get so frustrated.
I do. You have this pale Irish skin, and it's like it changes from week to week.
My skin doesn't change from week to week.
I change the lighting every time. I don't change it until the next show, and it's different, and it is terrible.
Okay, we will move on from that as well. I'm proud of my Irish heritage.
Yes.
So I am 5,726 in line for the throne. I have an aunt who figured that out at one time, which was an aunt who had way too much time on her hands. But
yes.
I loved her anyways. we're going to get started. One serious note. I was watching Saturday Night Live, which I haven't done forever and a day, but I watched the very start of it, and they brought out the national choir from the country of Ukraine. There wasn't a dry eye in the house, including mine. So just want to send our prayers to the people of Ukraine. We hope this doesn't last, and we hope you get past this and you're safe soon. And we're sorry you have to go through this.
Yeah, and we don't get into politics here at all, and we're not going to get into that, but having a voice in the community, we do feel it's important to send our thoughts and prayers to all the people in Ukraine that are having to deal with this. We mean everybody that, may not get home to their loved ones in one piece. So anybody that's out there, please stay safe. And it's a sad situation.
Yeah, it is. It is. And then I just feel so bad for the people of the Ukraine. It's a proud country, and they shouldn't be going through this. So
again, thoughts and prayers out to you guys. We're going to move on from that. We have some news to talk to in the sports world.
We do.
And it was just announced that the Packers are actually going to be traveling to London to play a game.
For the first time.
Yes.
They dodged that bullet for years and years and years.
Nobody wanted to take the Packer game off their schedule. I mean, it's always sold out. But with the 17th game, you knew it was going to happen.
Right.
And they it ended up being a Packer home game. So they will be hosting that game.
But it's not going to be at Wembley. It's going to be at another stadium in London someplace.
I'm not sure how they're going to break that all up, because the Jags are going to London as well. The Cardinals are going to Mexico. And then the Buccaneers are going to Germany.
Which will be a cool game.
That will be. I didn't realize how strong of an NFL following there is in Germany.
It's growing over there, and I know they have a big American football population.
Right.
Sorry, it was my mouth not working, but there's a big following of U.S. football in Germany.
Right.
I don't think they're probably going to be happy about the Bucs going there without Tom Brady, but it'll still be a fun game.
It'll still be a fun game. I'm surprised the Packers didn't go over there, considering Wisconsin does have such a strong German heritage. It surprised me a little bit that the Packers weren't the team to go over to Germany.
No stereotype there at all.
Well, I mean, it's not anything bad, but it's true, It's beer, cheese, brats, and the Green Bay Packers is Wisconsin.
It is.
And so Packer fans would fit right in over in Germany.
Well, what's killing me is people are making such a big thing because the Packers didn't mention Aaron Rodgers in their announcement, or the NFL didn't mention them. It's like, get over it, guys. He will make his decision when he makes a decision. I fully expect him to be back in Green Bay.
Hopefully today he makes the announcement, in case this gets posted after he does make some announcement, which I don't think it will. But
he does. I mean, I think he'll be back. I think Devontae will get back. I'm not worried about the cap at all. Everybody's going, well, the Packers will never get under the salary cap. There are experts there. Russ Ball will figure it out, and they will get below the cap.
Yep.
And we will have I think we'll be the prohibitive favorite to get to the Super Bowl if he comes back.
There's a couple of them. New England Patriots are going to get better. I'm a huge Mac Jones fan. They will definitely be better next year.
They're the American Conference. I'm talking in the National Conference.
Which is fair. You said Super Bowl favorites.
Yes, from the National Football Conference.
Whatever. I clearly wasn't listening and was preparing for my next thought, and that's on me, and I apologize.
He doesn't listen. And this is the
but
problem all parents have, is their kids not listening to them.
If Aaron Rodgers does stay in Green Bay, I do think that you will see the Packers as the favorites from the NFC, and I do think you will see the Patriots as the favorites coming out of the AFC this year.
Really?
I do. I'm a big Mac Jones fan. Belichick is still at the top of his game. I think they're going to make some great draft picks to help Mac Jones, and I think they're going to be a dangerous team.
Look, I think, make no mistake, I think Belichick is staying for one reason and one reason only, and that is to get to the Super Bowl and to show that he can do it without Tom Brady the way that Tom Brady showed that he could do it without Belichick.
I agree, but early picks for me. I know it's super early, but my early picks are the Packers and the Patriots in the Super Bowl for a rematch of 1996.
If Rodgers comes back, I'm definitely picking the Packers. They've got to figure out a way to get past the playoffs, and Rodgers honestly has to figure out a way to get out of his own head and play up to his ability in the playoff games.
I agree. But let's get him back first. But speaking of, we do have quite a cool situation here as I'm trying to change the screen, because we do have a quarterback carousel like we've never seen in the NFL before. All of these quarterbacks here could move to different teams.
Well, it was announced Russell Wilson, I think, is definitely
everything off.
Yeah, he's moving
everything Seahawks off his Instagram.
Which, I'll be honest with you, I would love to have Russell Wilson as the quarterback of the Packers. He's a Badger through and through, and I think he would do great in Green Bay. I don't know if his wife would move to Green Bay, but having Russell Wilson there would be great.
Hey, it's about Super Bowls, and we've talked about this trade several times. It does make sense where you could make a trade where it's Aaron Rodgers to Denver, draft picks go to Seattle, and Russell Wilson comes to Green Bay. It'd be the first 3-team trade in the history of the NFL, and it makes sense. It could work.
I just don't think Pete Carroll is going to sign on to it.
I don't either. I don't know how long Pete Carroll is going to be around.
He's well into his 60s now. He's done everything.
He has.
He's won in the NCAA. He's won in the NFL.
Right.
But he's also one of those guys, I think, that once he's done, he's got to find his next passion thing, or I don't see him relaxing and just playing golf in retirement.
I don't either. I don't know where he'll end up. I could see him back in college. That would make sense. I really thought he was going back to USC for a little bit there. But Russell Wilson, it sounds like, wants out. The philosophies aren't meshing anymore. Jimmy Garoppolo is 100% going to move.
Again, the first domino's got to fall.
Rodgers is the first domino. He's the first one to fall. Where is he going?
Once Rodgers makes his decision, and the rest is going to take place. If Rodgers stays in Green Bay, and that's the assumption we're going to operate under.
Right.
I can see Garoppolo going to any of a number of places. I can see Russell Wilson in New Orleans.
I don't know if that fits. I don't see anybody in New Orleans. New Orleans is... I think they're going to stick with Jameis. I really do. I didn't even think to include him on here. I think Jameis stays in New Orleans. I could see Garoppolo going to Tampa Bay. I could see Garoppolo in Washington. I could see him in Carolina. I think Sam Darnold stays in Carolina. I think they ride that one more time.
There's no way Garoppolo is going to go to Tampa Bay and follow Brady again. That's just not going to happen.
Probably not. Denver obviously is on the table for all of these quarterbacks.
Well, if Rodgers doesn't go to Denver, I think Garoppolo can go there. You brought up something interesting earlier today about Kyler Murray. Will he just go and play baseball and say he's done with football?
I think that's the idea right now. I mean, this guy was the 9th overall pick by the Oakland Athletics. Shortstop who played a lot of baseball in college and was obviously a very good player.
Very
He's
good,
drafted 9th overall. I don't know what his plans are. That's one thing I'm getting really tired of, though, with this quarterback carousel is these guys are on rookie contracts or just sign extensions. Deshaun Watson saying, I want out of here, rather than willing to stay and rebuild with a team that just paid him a $100 million contract. Kyler Murray, what are you doing? These guys literally traded their former first-round pick for you to take you first overall, has built a team around you, and you're removing everything that Arizona has from your social media. You're 2 years in the league.
I honestly think Murray has realized how hard he's going to get hit playing football, and his career is going to be very short. I don't know why. I don't know why that surprises him, and Deshaun Watson, is he ever going to play again?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
He'll probably come back at some point in some capacity, but he's about to be 2 years out of the league. I mean, there's a lot of smoke there.
There's a lot of smoke. And I want Lovie, I'll say this for the record, he was a Bears coach, but I want Lovie Smith to succeed. I want him to have an outstanding year and get a quarterback that can lead them to the promised land. Yep. Russell Wilson, maybe go to Houston. They've got so much money invested there.
They do. I love Lovie Smith. I loved him in Chicago. That rivalry was as tough as it could have been between the Packers and the Bears. I mean, I'm a big Lovie Smith fan. I thought in Tampa
he got screwed.
He definitely got screwed. He was doing really good things. I don't know what they were thinking. I mean, I do. They wanted the offensive coordinator because they're afraid they're going to lose him. But I think Lovie Smith runs an amazing organization. I think he is a great coach and was an absolutely amazing hire for the Houston Texans.
It was the absolute right hire. He would have taken Tampa Bay to the Super Bowl with Tom Brady, just as Bruce Arians would have. He did a great job, or started to do a great job at University of Illinois.
Yep.
Then that got pulled out from under him.
Yeah.
I don't know
what the deal is.
I don't know, but I just feel bad for him because I think he is a class guy and he runs a class organization. So I am rooting for the Houston Texans this year.
I am too. I don't know what they're going to do quarterback because, again, if Deshaun Watson even comes back, he's going to have at least an 8-game suspension. Here's a question. What do you do with Carson Wentz? You just gave up a first-round draft pick this year for Carson Wentz. His ankles are pretty bad.
I say bye-bye.
It's a big cap hit for releasing him. They took on all that contract.
Let's put it this way, and we always play this game. Carson Wentz, Russell Wilson. Carson Wentz,
take Russell Wilson off
Jimmy Garoppolo.
There's the question. There's a question because, I mean, Carson Wentz or Russell Wilson, you're talking a top 5 quarterback versus a guy who's maybe in the top 15. Jimmy Garoppolo and Carson Wentz, that is a very good, both injury prone.
Mm-hmm.
Both solid when they need to be, but both are also going to make mistakes that could cost you the game.
I think Garoppolo makes less of them. I was very impressed with him this season. He absolutely could have gotten them to the promised land. It was a good game. You know, I don't think he was the reason they lost against the Rams. He's a good quarterback.
But Carson Wentz was an MVP, and then he got hurt, and then somebody else takes him to the Super Bowl. I mean, Carson Wentz's problem is not with his football abilities. It's all between the ears.
Yeah, but once this part becomes so in front of you and it overtakes your talent, you never get past it.
Right.
You know, and it couldn't have been easy going into Philadelphia all the time, seeing somebody else's statue up there, which should have been yours.
Nope.
Go to Indianapolis, and you're going to be behind Andrew Luck. His shadow is still around that team. So I don't know. He's just never. He's that guy that should have been great, but always had the issue and never got over the top. I mean, let's face it. This year, they were good because of Jonathan Taylor.
Yes. I'm going to make a bold prediction here. I think except Jimmy Garoppolo, all these quarterbacks stay put. I don't think Rodgers goes anywhere. I think Teddy Bridgewater is going to be under center for Denver. I think Carson Wentz is going to get another run at Indianapolis. Russell Wilson won't be going anywhere. He's going to stay in Seattle. Kirk Cousins, he's got his extension. He's not going anywhere. Ryan Tannehill is going to stay in Tennessee, and Sam Darnold gets another shot in Carolina.
I will agree with that, except for one. Denver will get Russell Wilson if they don't get Aaron Rodgers.
I don't think he's going anywhere. I don't think Seattle's going to give him up. I really don't. I think Seattle would give up Pete Carroll before they gave up Russell Wilson. And I think those are the conversations that are happening.
I think I could see that happening, but I don't think Russell Wilson stays in Seattle. I think he's just more than Aaron Rodgers. I think Russell Wilson is just done in Seattle. So
it's fine. You can be done, but there's contracts. And Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, those two have every right to say, I'm out. I've given you everything. Both gave their organizations a Super Bowl. They've been around long enough. They're on extra contracts. The issue I have is people like Kyler Murray, who it's like, you're not even off your rookie contract yet. You can't be done with an organization.
He's a separate deal. And again, the question is he done with football? But the same thing applies in the Rodgers to Denver conversation as it does with Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson can go to Denver, and Seattle can get a ton of draft capital.
They can. Denver has 11 or 12 picks this year in the draft. They can definitely send a lot. I just don't. If you're going to build around a quarterback like that, can you give up all those draft? They're going to need 3 or 4 first rounders to get Russell Wilson.
Probably, and I think they will do it. I think I think Rodgers takes 3 first rounds and a couple second rounds to make the deal happen. If in fact it happens, and I hope it doesn't, Russell Wilson, at least 2 first rounds. Why he never gets considered as just as good as Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady, I don't know, because he's right up there as well. But I think it'll take 2 first rounds and additional second round draft picks.
I don't think he's going anywhere. I don't think. Okay. I think Teddy Bridgewater is still going to be under center for the Denver Broncos unless they draft somebody and start him right away.
You heard it here first.
We'll see. Garoppolo, it's a matter of where he's going to go. I could see Tampa Bay paying money for him. I could see Carolina being on there. But again, I think Sam Darnold's going to stay there.
Tampa Bay is
going to end up. I could see Garoppolo in Denver, if anything.
Well, and talking about predictions, I can also see, and this has been out there, but Tom Brady coming out of retirement and going to San Francisco.
I think Tom Brady's done. I can't imagine him coming back.
The only way it happens is San Francisco.
I truly believe you're right on that. The only way it happens is in San Francisco.
Right.
But I just don't see it happening at all.
Well, we've got to get through this little period right now. Rodgers has to make his move, and then we got the draft.
Right. But first domino to fall. Rodgers is the first domino to fall. Once everybody knows what's going on with him, that's when things are going to start to take off.
Absolutely.
But another thing's happening that I'm really sad about, I know you're sad about as well, and that is the fact that we are still in a lockout for Major League Baseball. We're going to lose games.
I'm not sad about it. I'm angry about it because I don't think this has to happen.
It doesn't. Like, what is happening here where you aren't figuring this out? You've had 3 months now to figure this out. The lockout started December 2nd.
They were not going to do anything until they could put an artificial deadline on. And as with every work stoppage in baseball dating back to the 1980s, early 80s, it all is usually about a fight between the big market owners and little market owners. And the players are just on the outside trying to influence the decisions that are being made.
Yes. Well, and here's what's interesting. So this is what the players are asking for here in the lockout. And I did get this from Cleveland.com. It's Paul Hoyne's article. If I mispronounced your last name, I'm sorry. But this is a full breakdown of what they're asking for. Reduction from 6 to 5 years for a player to become a free agent. And the owners aren't budging on this at all. They're asking for players with 2 years of service to be eligible for arbitration instead of 3 years. Again, the owners don't want anything to do with it. End tanking.
Mm-hmm.
Which who doesn't want to end tanking? Reduced revenue sharing, which is an interesting one, and end service time manipulation, what we like to call the Chris Bryant rule.
The Chris Bryant rule.
For that last one with the Chris Bryant rule, with the stink that Scott Boras made, how did you not see this coming? You and I were talking about this in 2015.
They knew it was coming. And what they did was, what the Cubs did with Chris Bryant was almost criminal. I mean, bad.
But that's the rules.
I know, and they played within the rules. I mean, I think what they're going to try to do is they will raise the rookie minimums from about $500 or $600 to $775,000 or $800,000 a year,
sure.
Which young players are going to say, yeah, give it to me all day long. We'll take it. This
isn't football where you can get away with that. Baseball is a much more veteran sport.
But if you're making $500,000, you're a first-year player, and you're going to change that to $800,000 for the first 3 years, that's a lot of money that they're going to now, a rookie contract is going to be worth to you.
For sure.
It comes back to, and guys, really, we aren't trying to just push the plan that we described a few weeks ago. However, we could solve all of this. And this comes back to the fact that what is the most exciting part about baseball every year, or the most news? It's a trade deadline where, like last year, the Cubs were sellers, and they gave away their entire team, which was tragic.
And I want to get into that, and I am trying to push our plan, by the way, because it's brilliant, and I want it to be in place. But to get into these before we jump down that rabbit hole, because we will, trust me. Reduction from 6 to 5 years for a player to become a free agent. I don't understand how that's unreasonable. That's how every other sport major sport in the United States does it. And think about it. These guys sitting in the minors, that clock doesn't start until they are in the majors at the beginning of the season.
Okay. The only thing that I will say, and this is an older way to look at it because the average age in baseball has come way down. You didn't used to get out of the minors and into the majors until you're 27 or 28 because you played 5 years in the minors to learn your craft. Now they're bringing them up.
Only certain guys, though.
Certain guys, true. It is certain guys, but baseball is a much longer career, and that's the owners are saying, look, you can play for 20 years. You've got to give us that 6 year so we can get some of our investment back. I'm not saying I agree with it, but that's what they're arguing.
I don't understand how if somebody's up there and say you put in NFL rookie rules right now where you have 4-year contract with a 5-year team option. How is somebody giving you 4 years, not giving you return on your investment?
In their mind, they've invested a lot of money to get you ready to invest in you as far as marketing and everything else goes. And the bottom line is the owners want to control you for that extra year. Baseball owners have been some of the worst partners players have had in any major sport.
Right.
And if the NBA has the best relationship and
Definitely.
Football is someplace in between, and the argument is football players are taken advantage of, but baseball, it's always been just head to head. They've tried to keep the players under their thumbs dating back to the beginning of the game, and it's time for them to look at the players as partners.
It is, and I think that's a big step, is saying, listen, 5 years you're a free agent. I don't think that's unreasonable to ask for. Players with 2 years of service time to be eligible for arbitration. Honestly, if you're changing it to 5 years of a contract, you don't necessarily need that, especially if you go to a 4-year contract with a 5th-year team option. You don't necessarily need to go that route. There's ways to negotiate where you kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Ending tanking. This goes with reduced revenue sharing. And I've read a lot into this the last little bit with the lockout going on, and I know you and I have talked about this quite a bit as well, but revenue sharing has become one of the worst things to happen in baseball in the history of the sport.
It has driven salaries way down. Bob Costas said something years and years ago. Baseball's not like football, where you have a national TV contract and very small local contracts. In baseball, you have massive local contracts, billion-dollar deals for New York and Chicago. His solution, and I think it's brilliant, is all of that goes into if the Brewers are playing in New York, and granted they're in different leagues now, but let's just use it as an example. So for those games, the Yankees would get 60% of the local radio revenue and local stand revenue, and the Brewers would get 40%.
Yeah.
And reverse it when you come to Milwaukee. That would even things out so that the money would be there to invest, and you can't use the argument, well, they're a small market team. They don't have that kind of revenue. Somebody's got to be like the Maras were in football and step up and go, you know what? You can't have football without New York and Green Bay. And nobody's been willing to do that in baseball and say we can't have baseball without Kansas City and New York.
Right. I think a big issue is too, and this is one thing I didn't realize, is that yes, there's revenue sharing. Living in small markets in Milwaukee area now, in Tampa Bay,
right.
Previously, you're like, well, these teams aren't making any of the money. It makes sense. Revenue sharing is going to allow them to compete more, but there's no stipulations that they have to spend that revenue sharing on players.
Look what just happened today. I just saw it before we went on the air. Derek Jeter announced that he is ending his relationship with the Miami Marlins.
Hold on, wait for it. I got a new sound.
Breaking news.
Okay, no.
Okay. Jeter's ending his relationship with the Marlins, and why? Because the philosophies didn't mesh up. In other words, Jeter wanted to win, and the other owners wanted to pocket a lot of money.
It's possible. I mean, we're speculating here, but there's definitely visions that weren't there, and I think Jeter, a former player, is on the player side on this one.
I do too.
I don't think they're asking for much. And with the revenue sharing, what they're saying is this is terrible because you have teams, and I've used Pittsburgh as an example for a long time, and this is nothing against any Pittsburgh Pirate fan that's watching. I am in support of you. Pittsburgh paid for a brand new gorgeous stadium for their baseball team, and they refuse to put a competitive team on the field. And they're constantly spending less salary. Same with Miami. They're constantly spending less than anybody else in the league on talent. All of their big names are trading away at the trade deadline, and which means they are pocketing all of that shared revenue for themselves and not doing what they need to for their fans.
Take a look at Miami. That stadium, built at public expense, went up when we were down there, and they have just said, thanks, guys. And they're making millions upon millions, and yet they will not put a competitive team. The last competitive team they had was when they won the World Series.
Yeah, we don't need
10 or 15, whatever. But that's when they got, the push to get the new stadium. It got there.
Yeah.
I look at Milwaukee, and believe me, I had this conversation with fans in Tampa Bay on the radio at the time. Everybody was saying, well, they built Miller Park. We don't need one. We've got a stadium that's just as good here. The Trop is awful. It's got to go, or Tampa Bay has to move. One of the two. It's not. They can't.
It's like the Milwaukee Bucks had with the Bradley Center. I mean, the NBA looked at them and said, "Listen, you're getting a new stadium either here or in Seattle."
Correct.
And Major League Baseball needs to do the same thing.
And Milwaukee built the stadium for the Brewers.
Yeah.
They've been competitive. Mark Antanasio has been a great owner. He puts a competitive team on the field. He takes that money he gets and puts it back into the players, to the surprise of some people. But it would be easy to do around the leagues if there was true revenue sharing and make the players a partner in your business instead of treating them like employees.
Yeah, well, and just put stipulations on revenue sharing that says X amount of this has to go to player spending.
They've been asking for that for 40 years.
I don't see why it's not happening. Why? How, as an owner, I'm a competitive human being. I'm a very competitive human being when I get into things.
Sure.
You are too. We've always been competitive. I could never own a team and just be like, I'm going to take all this money and not be competitive. Like how you cannot, especially as a billionaire owner, like you've had to be competitive to get where you are.
Mm-hmm.
You've had to be cutthroat to get where you are. Why are you not that way now with your team?
It's just always been that way between the big markets and the small markets, and the players are caught in the middle. And honestly, and I am going to go back down that bunny hole, if they chose to use our method of restructuring the leagues and the divisions, having instead of 3 5-team divisions, having 3 or 5 3-team divisions, all of a sudden that competitive balance is there all the time, and the trade deadline is not the biggest story, and it shouldn't be. The trade deadline should not be where you've got some buyers and you're sellers, especially if there's only 3 teams in your division. You got to be real careful because it's easy to get to the playoffs then.
Well, here's the divisions again, right? We've talked about these before on different shows, so you can definitely check it out. I am extremely passionate about this because it does fix it. I have a friend, Brian, that's a big Red Sox fan, and he and I were going back and forth on it a little bit there because he's he's saying the Mets are never going to get there, and I just don't think that's true.
No, that's not true.
The wild card is still pretty new. Like, the wild card is in my lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was in high school when the wild card came out. I mean, it's pretty new. It used to be only Yankees, Red Sox went to the playoffs. Only one team went. And you can do the same thing here where only one team goes. It makes it more competitive. And again, it's for the betterment of baseball. And this is where Rob Manfred needs to get better.
He
Rob
absolutely
Manfred,
does.
People gave C-League flack for being a commissioner. Rob Manfred may go down as the worst commissioner in baseball since Bud Adams in the American League. He allowed the 1919 Black Sox scandal to happen.
When Goose Gossage says he wants to punch you in the mouth, you're not handling things well.
No, because you need to be looking at the bigger picture. picture. Roger Goodell, for instance, he got booed, right? For a long time, people didn't like him, but he saw the bigger picture. He looked at fantasy football and said, this is going to take us to that next level, and made sure it was in all the stadiums. He looked at the big networks and looked at Thursday Night Football and extending the games, and has been looking at the bigger picture. He stood up to Jerry Jones and said, we're not canceling revenue sharing.
Right.
This is for the betterment of the game. And this is where Rob Manfred needs to grow a pair and say, we need to make changes for baseball. This isn't about you. This isn't about what you're going to make next year. This is about saving a sport that Americans love.
Baseball is no longer America's pastime. That's been taken over by football. If baseball wants to be around for the next 3 generations, it needs to make some drastic changes. And one of those is Bud Selig made it a regional game to try to save it, to get a lot of money there. It's got to become a national game, or they're not going to survive.
Not even a little bit. And this makes it national. And Brian, I know you're listening out there. Brian made the comment like you just made about the trade deadline. That's where it came from, saying, well, the trade deadline, won't be as exciting. It's one of the most exciting things in the sport of baseball. Do you know how sad that is?
Yeah.
Do you know how sad that is? In the middle of because he's right. The trade deadline is the most exciting thing to happen in baseball. Not the World Series, not opening day.
Who's going to be
not free agency?
Who's going to be buyers and who's going to be sellers?
Right. Who is going to tank the rest of their season to the point where their fans no longer pay attention, and who's actually going to have a chance at winning a World Series?
And look at what happened with the Cubs last year. They traded off their World Series team.
Everybody.
They're not competitive
I stopped
this
watching.
year.
I don't even know who's on the team anymore, man. I mean, I do, but I stopped paying attention. My season was over.
And that's what needs to stop and should never be allowed to happen again. And if you only have 3 teams in the division, and granted in Chicago it would have been the White Sox, the Cubs, and the Cardinals, just pride alone is not going to let you lose to the Cardinals.
Correct. If you look at, let's look at these. If you look at Colorado, Seattle, and Kansas City as a division, those guys, Colorado, Seattle, they're trade deadline people all the time. Right? Their fans haven't had anything to cheer for in a long time. All of a sudden, they're going to have a chance to actually win in a division. And Colorado, hasn't been relevant in a while now, all of a sudden has a chance. Same with Seattle. The trade deadline should not be the most exciting thing in your sport.
That's
pathetic. That is absolutely pathetic that the middle of the season, when half of your league is going to literally give up, is the most exciting part.
Can you imagine any football team doing that in any division? Every year in football, you have at least 6 teams that make the playoffs that didn't make it the year before.
Right.
And thereby you're going to have 6 teams that were in the playoffs the year before that aren't in this year. And that's been great for football. And it could be the same thing in baseball. And they have to look at some big time rule changes in order to expand and grow the game.
They do. And I find it absolutely ridiculous that baseball is allowing this to happen. Rob Manfred, I hope you're listening. You need to grow a pair and stand up to these owners. You need to look at them and say, enough is enough. We need to save this sport. This isn't about making money. This is about saving a sport. Because you know what? If people continue to turn off, then we're not going to have any money to make. TV's not going to want us anymore. And baseball is going to become just as watched as the WNBA because nobody's going to pay attention anymore.
Well, you look at all these stadiums around the country, and Milwaukee was built by public money. Most cities are saying we're not doing that anymore.
Right. There's no return on investment.
No, there's not. But Milwaukee, I think, has been a good example. Going forward, it's got to be a public-private partnership. But he's taken the money he's gotten and he's put a competitive team on the field most of the time.
Built a terrible stadium, but that's not his fault. That's before he was there.
Yeah. And I hate to say this, Spurs fans, the sight lines in Miller Park are atrocious. They're awful.
The sight lines in Miller Park are terrible.
County Stadium was better as far as I'm concerned. Now, the food in Miller Park, still the best.
Food is good.
Love it. But taking that away, you've got the Shrine. Look the Ricketts have put millions upon millions into Wrigley Field.
They have.
But you traded off your whole team.
For a casino. That's what made me aggravated as a Cubs fan more than anything, is that the Ricketts traded off our whole team and then announced a $200 million project to build a casino.
I have been the biggest anti-Pete Rose person on the face of the planet. I don't think he belongs in the Hall of Fame. However, if baseball is going to get in bed with casinos, put Rose in, put the Black Sox in, because you've lost all your integrity.
You have. I mean, putting a casino in Wrigley Field, I mean, that's just another thing. You're turning baseball into a dog track, right? Into a horse racing track. And that's nothing against dogs racing. I'm not getting into that. But I'm just saying.
No, there's a lot wrong with dogs racing.
There's a lot wrong with dog racing. But I'm glad they got rid of it. But it's essentially what it is. It's an old school dog track at that point. That's disgusting. Don't put a casino in your stadium. Where's the purism of the sport? The sport is not for grown adults to sit there and gamble. The sport is for kids.
Yes.
This is a game. This is for fathers and sons like you and I when we used to go, for me and my boys to go and watch a game that grown adults get to play and get to enjoy, and the kids get to look up to these players. And you're putting a casino in there?
Nothing draws a community together more than a team playing for a World Series. And it's happened all over the country, and the fact that it's going away from it after less than 5 years, 6 years from winning a World Series, you give away your entire franchise.
Right.
It's ridiculous. And the changes that we've talked about, and the one Bob Costas, speaking of which, also agrees with us, you've got to move up the start games. If you really think nobody will watch your games unless they start at 9 o'clock, you've got way bigger problems.
Right. And to just go on to this before we get more into the rules, because there are some concessions the owners have made, right? But the big thing is with these divisions, the 3-team divisions, if you're in a 3-team division and you are like you look at the Pirates, Phillies, and Nationals, right? If you're a Pirates fan and in a 3-team race, you're in last place and selling off your team every single year, I'd revolt as a fan against the owners.
Sure.
There's no reason you can't win in Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh used to win all the time.
Correct.
Before we go on to the next one, because we did forget to do something on the show, please like, subscribe, and share.
I always put the button in there.
I know, but we hadn't said it today.
I always get really excited and just want to keep going.
I know, and I want to get you made me stop, and so I'm stopping you now.
It's fair.
But it's true. I mean, I want to see baseball grow. I want to see people excited. We watched the World Series in school. It was on in the afternoons on Saturdays and Sundays. You can start some of the games at 9 o'clock, I guess, but not all of them. Little kids should need to be able to see their heroes, get attached to them, and say, yeah, I want to be able to play just like that guy.
I agree, and I hear the rules here that we've talked about in the past. Moving up the start time of the playoff games, like you said, you have to have faith in your product that people are going to watch it. Honestly, that surprised me more than anything. You believe so little in your product that you're putting it so late at night that most of the country can't watch it. Yeah, it's probably a great time for the West Coast, but the East Coast games start at 8:30, 9 o'clock.
Cubs won the World Series at 2 o'clock Eastern Time, a.m.
Right.
It's ridiculous.
It's unacceptable. You need to be starting these games earlier. You can start these games at 4 o'clock.
Sure.
People will come.
And people will, yes.
Well, what if we have a game in LA? Well, you better hope that you believe in your product enough that people are willing to take off work to go to a World Series game.
Or if they're willing to turn on their TVs at 1 o'clock in the afternoon on a Saturday and Sunday to watch the game. If you really don't think they will, shame on you.
Right. I mean, yeah, you're competing with football, but you're in championship at that point.
Correct.
It should be a different conversation, and you should, again, believe in your product more. And if people aren't watching in prime time your sport versus regular season and other sports, then you probably need to tweak your sport and do a better job. And the big thing is the time inning. Mike Greenberg on his show. I remember I called him Mark, by the way. Sorry about that last time. I didn't even realize it till I watched the video back. Slip of the tongue. But Mike Greenberg had mentioned this on his show. One pitching change in the middle of an inning per game, after we had talked about it. So thank you for the shout out on ESPN. We appreciate it.
We appreciate that.
I think that saves on time a lot. It forces people to pitch better. The 12th inning is a big one we've discussed several times, and the owners have conceded now they are willing to put a DH.
I think that
Major League Baseball.
As much as I hate to say it, I would love to see it go the other way. Ship a sail. There's going to be a DH in both leagues.
Tweak the rules to make it better for today. The DH is going to be there. Tweak the rules as such. These 5 rules help. Again, this fixes baseball. It fixes tanking, right? Because you're putting 3-team divisions in. It fixes that trade deadline. That shouldn't be the most exciting part of your game.
No. And as far as Brian's concerned, the Red Sox shouldn't be in the playoffs. Ever.
Brian, I didn't say that. He did.
Oh, I'm proud to say it. Ever. But they will once in a while.
Again, though, the trade deadline shouldn't be as big of a deal as it is. You want to keep your core players. The best sports want to keep their core players throughout. Free agency should be the most exciting off-season thing that you have going for you. Not the trade deadline on who's going to move. Build your team to win and continue to try throughout.
And charge more for your ads. Have fewer of them, especially in the playoffs.
Well, and here's the thing, too. Well, if we start these games at 5 o'clock, say, I don't know, 6:30 Eastern time, the West Coast isn't going to tune in until the 7th inning. So what? Charge more for the...
I don't believe that anyways.
Well, and even if they do, charge more for late inning commercials then.
Yeah. There's ways around it. The batters, we've offered changes for the pitchers. The umpire's got to look at the batter and go, you're not going to be readjusting your glove after every pitch. Keep your butt in the...
And they've gotten better about that.
They have, but there's still too much allowed to step out. If you're a right-handed pitcher, your right foot should never be allowed to step outside the box.
Well, and I'm sorry, this is one you're going to disagree with me on 100%, but it is time to do something about a strike zone. If these umpires cannot figure out how to be consistent with a strike zone, you got to bring in machines. You don't have a choice.
Yeah, no, that's not going to happen. I want to see the umpires.
You don't have a choice. It's too many times where you're seeing it called a strike one inning and a ball the next inning. It's not fair to the pitchers. You have to figure out how to be consistent. If it's going to be a ball, call it a ball every time.
That's been going on from time immemorial. However, I will say this, and I've told you this before. You want to raise the strike zone a little bit? Allow the umpires to wear the balloon chest protectors again. Now that they wear the same stuff that catches you, they get so low, it alters their perspective of the pitches coming in. But be consistent. I don't care if the guy is calling a pitch 3 or 4 inches outside, but he calls it that way in the entire game. That's fine. So be it.
And that's what players have said too. So be it. If you're going to call it that way the entire game, at least we can adjust to it.
They respect the umpires for doing that. Yep. They know what they're going to get, and they get it for the entire game.
Often. And the problem is you got guys standing behind the plate that are older than you and can probably see worse than you.
Probably.
And those guys shouldn't be sitting behind the plate anymore.
No, they're getting better about bringing in teams that rotate. There's vacations, and we can go through all that. But I think Joe West just retired. I believe he was the oldest guy. If you're an umpire and you really can't get down anymore because you've got such a stomach, time to move on or get in shape.
It should just have to. And what's that one umpire's name? Angel Hernandez?
Yeah, he should just go away, period. He's the worst umpire in the history of baseball.
I turn off games when that guy is umpiring. Yeah. He's the one I have the biggest issue with when it's like, well, that was a strike 2 seconds ago.
But now it's not.
Now it's not. And framing a pitch is great, if catchers can do that. But it is time now where just make it consistent. Just bring. You can still have an umpire back there.
Look,
and it can still be a part of the game where you call strikeouts. Just allow the machine to tell them if it's a ball or a strike. They can focus on other things. You're not changing the game that much.
I don't agree with it, but I can't say that the technology's not there to do it because they've been doing it in tennis for years and years and years with Hawkeye. Can they do it? Possibly, but I've even seen where they've actually shown technology-wise what they're looking at. They are even off. But
it's not about being off.
It's being consistent. Yes. And Johnny Bench I'm going back to my Johnny Bench stories, but he was the absolute best at taking a ball that may be 3 inches outside, and by the time he catches the ball, it's on the corner, and that's a strike.
Wilson Contreras for the Cubs is very much that way. He's very good at that. But again, there's consistency to the pitch. And that lets a pitcher know, hey, I can bring it in because if it's here at the end, the umpire's going to call it.
Right.
It's not about...
But that's training
off.
That's training. That's not...
It is, but you have the technology now where it's not about being off. It's about being consistent.
Agreed, but that's not what's at issue between the players and the owners right now. The owners are once again basically trying to break the union.
They're 100% trying to break the union. The owners are completely in the wrong here. They need to be able to bend on this. And the players, they're not asking for anything. I can come back to the screen here where it shows exactly what the players are asking for. They're not asking for a lot.
They need to be look, owners and players at some point need to be a partner in these things,
right,
for the good of the game and to grow it instead of the owners look at these guys as interchangeable employees, and nobody is irreplaceable, granted, but they're more than just employees. These are
some of the most talented athletic people in the entire world, and if a players' union has to go to owners and say, we want tanking to stop.
What's wrong with... Well,
that's a problem.
The union the players were also the one that went to their union first and then to baseball and said, we want PEDs out of the game.
Right.
And I applaud them because it cleaned up the game.
It did.
And the players, once again, are going, we need to fix this because it's our game and we love our game and we want to see it grow. And the owners rather, need to stop worrying if they're worth $4 billion or $5 billion if you're the Yankees.
And again, the fact that revenue sharing isn't going back into the players, I'm guaranteed there's people out there that say, well, these guys get paid so much anyways. Who cares? Who cares what they get paid? They're the ones making the product.
Right. And there is so few people that can hit a 90-mile-an-hour fastball with a round ball and a round bat and hit it square. They're in the 1/100th of 1% on the people on the planet who can do that consistently. Right. These guys earn every dime they make.
Well, why isn't the money going to the people making the product? Why is this being marketed? Why are teams tanking?
Okay. I don't begrudge the owners a chance to make a profit. That's what they're in, and they've taken the risk. They bought the teams. They have all the overhead.
Make a profit. You know what makes a bigger profit? Winning. You know what makes fans come to the game? I am sick and tired of watching games in Pittsburgh and seeing 5 people in the stands.
Or Tampa, where there's 4. And I was going to...
a good team. That's a different problem.
I was going to say that, and you cut me off, but we won't. Sorry. Go ahead.
My apologies. After you.
No, go ahead.
All I'm saying is if you look at the Brewers, right, to speak of the team you grew up watching, when I was a kid, there was nobody there.
Right.
There was nobody there at all. And Antanasio did a great job of working with many organizations in Wisconsin and bringing fans to the game even before they got good. And now there's a huge cult following for the Brewers. And they get $3 million a year and are constantly putting competitive teams on the field.
And Miller Park helped that. I mean, you went from the transition.
I don't know how Miller Park helped it. It's a terrible stadium.
Okay. Take that. It's not a terrible stadium. We went to terrible stadium in Tampa. That's an awful, terrible stadium. Miller Park, you're
bad.
Miller Park is a beautiful stadium. You know you're going to see a game every time you go there because you've got the roof. Is there a problem with some of the sightlines? Yes, there is.
It's American Family Field.
What did I say, Miller Park?
I've been saying Miller Park the whole time. I mean, really, it's North Wrigley.
It's AmFam Field, and I'm very sorry for saying that because the fact that American Family has stepped up once again and is sponsoring sports in Wisconsin should be hailed and should be congratulated because they are always there for the sports in the state, whether it's golf or whether it's AmFam Field. So I apologize for calling it Miller Park. Right. If there was a way to edit this and change it all, I would.
Just call it North Wrigley. That's what I do.
No, it's AmFam Field. And for those fans who say, well, I'm always going to call it Miller, no, it is AmFam Field, and they should get the credit for it. So thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah.
But
that being terrible. But it did help bring people in. But again,
It does.
the community owned it was part of the deal. It was a really good deal for both the city and the team. But again, PNC Park, it's a beautiful stadium, and
Yes.
nobody goes because they're not putting competitive teams on the field, and that does need to be fixed. And again, what the players are asking for here is nothing.
The fact that we're going to lose games because they just can't get it together. I mean, what's the deadline before they're going to start canceling games? It's sometime this weekend.
Yeah, next week. I think next week, Monday.
Not acceptable on any level. I mean,
they're not going to get this done. They just stormed out of talks.
I'm hoping that they'll get it done.
It's not going to happen. We're going to lose games.
I think they should be much. Well, yeah. And some of the people have said, well, the owners are fine if they lose the first month of the season.
Right.
That's ridiculous.
Players need to stand pat on this. This is for the betterment of the game, and right now, this is ruining the sport.
Players need to take our plan and take it to the owners and go, we want to do this because this helps.
The rules do help, and I have nothing wrong with that. I mean, the players want to cut $100 million in revenue sharing, which I don't agree with. The players obviously want to get their money, which means the Yankees will pay more because they'll have more. I don't agree with that. You need to help small market teams because you're looking at baseball as a whole. But there needs to be stipulations in there where if you're going to do revenue sharing, 85% of this revenue sharing needs to be going to players.
I'd be happy with 70. I mean, it's going to guarantee that the product on the field is going to be competitive. And honestly, it's going to take at some point one of the big market teams to step up and go, it's time we share evenly amongst all the teams with all of our local revenue,
right,
including our local TV, cable, radio deals, all of it.
Yep.
Will it happen? Not in my lifetime.
Right. And this isn't about, I hate the argument too of this where it's saying, well, it's millionaires complaining because they want an extra million. These guys only have so many years to make their money for their entire life. Like, yes, $1 million I'm sure is enough to last most of us here an entire lifetime, but that's their career. That's all they have.
Right. And
they're an injury away from all of that being taken away.
And believe me, once they're gone, the owners are going to be just like, well, sorry, guys. And we've seen it happen over and over again. The players need to be, the owners need to step up and be partners with their players because they truly are partners. Look at what the NBA has done.
It needs to stop being a fight. It's been a fight since the early 1900s when the union was formed. It was a fight when Judge Landis was the commissioner. It was a fight when Selig was the commissioner. It's a fight now that Rob Manfred's the commissioner. And Rob Manfred, I'm sorry, he needs to grow a pair and fix baseball. And if he's not capable of doing it, then get somebody else in there who can do this.
Players,
I'm not going to watch one of my favorite sports be destroyed because owners are being greedy.
Look, players, the union was weak until Marvin Miller came in the 70s and changed the whole dynamic. And then they went through the Don Fear years where the union was very, very strong. But little by little, piece by piece, the owners have been grabbing that money back. And they were, as the owners do, they're in it for the long game because they're going to be there after the players are gone.
Correct.
The players need to step up and go, you know what, but you're going to need another person like me in this spot as soon as I'm gone.
Yep.
And
here's a line in the
this is the way to do it.
We're done with this, but we go on for this forever. I'm sickened by the fact that we don't have baseball. I'm sickened by the fact that it's over the players literally just asking for an extra piece of the pie that they put into play every single day. They're not asking for a lot.
They're not in this case. And again, the owners are, it looks like to me, and I've lived through, it seemed like there was a stoppage every 3 or 4 years back in the late 70s and early 80s, and I lived through all of them. And in some cases, I was on the owner's side. This time, the players aren't, as you said, aren't asking for a lot. And I think if you went and became a partnership with the players, you can make the game better for generations to come and make it a national game again by adopting the rules that we put forward. And they should do that.
Yep.
It's time.
It's better spending for players. It takes away from free agents or from trading deadline being the most exciting part of your game, which I'm sorry, if the trading deadline is more exciting than the actual World Series, then you have a problem with your sport. It's for the betterment of the sport. I agree. I can go on for this forever. I think it's time we call it a day.
We will do that, but we will be back in a couple of days with our next episode.
We will be indeed. Before we head out, any last words?
Come to an agreement, baseball. This is ridiculous. And Aaron Rodgers announced you're going to be staying in Green Bay, so we can talk about that on Thursday.
I 100% agree. It is every Tuesday and Thursday that we post a video, so do me a favor, like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you get notified every time we do drop a new video, and you can enjoy these as much as we enjoy making these.
Find us on Spotify as well.
We are on Spotify as well, streaming, which is linked in the description below. Ryan, happy birthday. Cassie, happy birthday. Glad to have you both in my life.
Love you both.
Wait, we're not over yet? And now it's over. Thank you so much for watching.
Everybody.
This has been Sports Talk with Dad.